Hello and welcome to another English Terms Dracula chapter discussion and analysis. Adding a bit of suspense there. Anyway, here's chapter 4. We've still got Jonathan Harker, prisoner of Count Dracula at Castle Dracula. And again, as normal, we will go through and we will find little things to look at. But we can think about themes of homoeroticism here, because look at this, he's gone to bed. Why isn't the pointer working today? Not sure. But anyway, we will carry on. Don't know why that's not working. Because Dracula's taken him to his room and taken all his clothes off, taken Jonathan Harker's clothes off. So his clothes were folded and laid in a manner which was not my habit. Okay, so, oh yeah, pointer's working now, but I've got to change it to green for some reason. His watch was still unwound. Well, he would have been meticulous about winding that as a Victorian gentleman himself. Then we have more references to the sexy vampire ladies who are a constant threat in the castle, as well as Dracula himself. It is now a sort of sanctuary, for nothing can be more dreadful than those awful women who are waiting to suck my blood. So there's a sense of incrementum there, as in build up, and there's parallel phrasing as well there. You could use that, couldn't you? There's a sense of suspense. So Stoker's creating some more suspense there because we know how dangerous the sexy vampire women are. Then we have I must know the truth. So remember, this is all in epistolary format. So this is epistolary form, and it's writing his journal, but you've still got Stoker emulating elements of prosodic features or prosody where you've got the emphasis there. I must know the truth. And as Harker is our protagonist here, we're meant to obviously be invested in his struggles. And Count being suave, great word suave, isn't it really? But the idea of how elegant and persuasive he is. So that's a nice little adjective you could talk about there as well. Then about this manipulation of the letters, that's very keeping with the Gothic genre of the villain and the damsel in distress, except we said before, didn't we, that Jonathan Harker is, even though he's male, he's like a damsel in distress and he's imprisoned. And the Gothic horror villain will manipulate things and manipulate the environment that they're in and imprison people and control. And you see things like the clothes here as well. There's lots of references to things here that show Dracula's villainy, even without the actual of devouring people as well, or at least drinking their blood. So something may occur which will give me a chance to escape. That's very fitting with a typical Gothic heroine normally, and the idea of trying to explore the castle and escape. I therefore pretended to fall in with his views. He hasn't really got a lot of options, has he really? Again, very much like a Gothic heroine characteristic here as well. He calculated a minute. The first should be June 12th, the second June 19, and the third June 29. I know now the span of my life. God help me. So that's a little exclamatory sentence there. And then pragmatics being used here to imply, of course, these letters are going to correspond with, well, the latest one. That's how long he's got to live. He's going to be left with the sexy vampire ladies. Dracula's brides is the more official term to use. Then we have references to the gypsies, and there's kind of racial descriptions here. The Szgany are gypsies. I've noted them in my book. They are peculiar to this part of the world. They're allied to the ordinary gypsies all the world over. He mainly shows not necessarily prejudice, but definitely a sense of, I think there's a sense of superiority, maybe curiosity, and he doesn't really understand them. And they are being presented, like, to the Victorian readers as they are strange foreigners, is how they're being presented here. And then allied to the ordinary gypsies all the world over. It kind of implies that they're all kind of some kind of vast gypsy network where they're all in sync with each other. Or he could just mean in terms of, or Stoker's writing it in this case, of course, Stoker could just mean it's in purely in terms of ethnicity. But you could explore that, can't you? And then there's use of language here. That's a way of setting Jonathan Harker apart from where he is, his location. He's in a foreign country. He doesn't understand the people or what they say, so it helps to create that sense of isolation and threat that Stoker's set up there. And then he can't understand them, so he doesn't understand their customs, which is kind of what I've said already. He's worried about what Mina would think about the letters, so it would frighten her to death were I expose my heart to her. And he means not heart as in he already loves her, but he means the truth about what's been happening here at Castle Dracula. Then I'd highlighted this bit for a reason. Let me have a look. Why did I do it? Then, oh yeah, because he gives these letters to the Szgany and he's double-crossed by them, basically. They're loyal to Dracula. So again, Stoker is setting up like glimmers of hope, and then they're very quickly dashed straight away. So he's seeing these letters. The other is the vile thing, an outrage upon friendship and hospitality. It is not signed well, so it cannot matter to us. And then he burns them. He burns the letter anyway, that letter. More things which are a feature of like a gothic heroine being trapped in the castle there. Obviously he's a male character, so he's a hero. He's like a gothic hero. He's the protagonist, but Stoker is crossing gender boundaries with his depiction here of Jonathan Harker. Very courteous and very cheery in his manner. So again, it links with earlier on we had the adjective about suave, but he's courteous, cheery. He's almost like a Bond villain, like they're always very suave and wine and dine there. James Bond and whoever's helping him out at that time. It's always like that, isn't it? Then carrying on, we have so remember I said about Dracula being like a classic gothic villain, and he locks doors and he restricts Jonathan's movements and everything. And in this case, every scrap of paper was gone. He's stopping him from being able to write any other forms of communication. He's just having that as an insurance. Then we also have mystery here about where's Harker's clothes gone. Well, it turns out Dracula's doing a bit of cosplay as Jonathan Harker, and that's coming up, but that's where his clothes have gone. Dracula's going around disguised as Jonathan Harker. It was part of his plan to trick people into thinking that he's still in the area. More gothic stuff there have been locked up, and then there's also references to all those boxes of earth that Dracula is having transported to England as well. So when he sees Dracula, here it is, look at this. It was a new shock to me to find that he had on the suit of clothes which I had worn whilst travelling here, and slung over his shoulder the terrible bag which I had seen the women take away. So that was when it had the child in it, isn't it? A new scheme of evil that he will allow others to see me as they think, so that it may leave evidence that I have been seen in the towns and villages posting my own letters, and that any wickedness which he may do shall by the local people be attributed to me. So that's an interesting thing there in terms of power and control from Dracula, taking his clothes, posing as Jonathan Harker, and then because reflecting Jonathan Harker's character as a solicitor as well, he notes that it's an unlawful imprisonment, isn't it? It's a veritable prison, but without the protection of the law, which is even a criminal's right and consolation. So he hasn't even got that. Then more reference to the dogs, which is actually probably wolves, I think. And this is another great little sequence here. The sound of dogs, but it does seem to be wolves because it's actually the brides of Dracula. The floating motes of dust to take new shapes to the sound as they danced in the moonlight. I felt myself struggling to awake to some call of my instincts. Nay, my very soul was struggling, and my half-remembered sensibilities were striving to answer the call. I was becoming hypnotised. Victorians are very interested in hypnotism. A bit of a cultural reference. They're quite interested in that as a fairly new, mysterious thing. It wasn't fully understood. Then the moonbeams seemed to quiver as they went by me into the massive gloom beyond. More and more they gathered till they seemed to take dim phantom shapes. And then I started broad awake and in full possession of my senses and ran screaming from the place. The phantom shapes which were becoming gradually materialised from the moonbeams were those of 3 ghostly women to whom I was doomed. So it's the brides of Dracula again manifesting themselves. So lots of ghostly women, phantom shapes, like good adjectives there as well. Even possession in some ways. I know he's talking about his own senses, or Stoker has Harker talking about his own senses, but possession's got connotations obviously of the supernatural and ghosts and the like. I still can't get the red lightsaber to appear. Anyway, we'll stick with green. We'll be on the side of the light side of the Force. Then we have this incident of a mother looking for a child as well. So Stoker emphasising Dracula's villainy and what's actually approaching England, what's going to be going to England, isn't it? So that's why he's doing it. We've had references to his, and also of the brides as well, having kind of metallic laughs, haven't we, as well? This dreadful thing of night and gloom and fear, that's a nice example of a synthetic list as well, so that's good. Oh, I had a little glitch there, and I hope that's all okay. Then over the page, and 25th of June, I'd not yet seen the count in the daylight. Can it be that he sleeps when others wake, that he may be awake whilst I sleep? It seems like he's taken a long time to work this out with this rhetorical question here. If only I could get into his room. References to the hereafter, so that is a synonym for heaven, in contrast to the villainy and demonic nature of Dracula. Then he gets into what he thinks is Dracula's room, but the room was empty. It's full of odd things. We've got gold here from different countries, and it's also, none of it that I noticed was less than 300 years old. So again, some of these kind of warning signs, he started to realise what he's up against here, really. It's taking him quite a long time. In true Gothic horror genre style, Harker explores the actual castle itself, and he goes deeper and deeper into the castle, and he finds the chapel that he says is being used as a graveyard as well. So again, this is maintaining the tone, isn't it, of the horror genre here. And he finds Dracula in one of the boxes, either dead or asleep, and he can the difference. And the lips were as red as ever. So he can see that this, obviously, I fled from the place, and leaving the cat's room by the window, I crawled again up the castle wall. Strangely, he's kind of echoing what Dracula does himself, like climbing around outside, doesn't he? That's how he's getting around the castle as well. Again, I saw him leave the castle by the same window and in my clothes. So we heard about that earlier on. You return to your beautiful England. I to some works you may have had such an end that we may never meet. And there's, again, Stoker's use of pragmatics. There's actually a hint of menace there, isn't there? Because he's the charming villain implying that he's going to be dead. There's more insincerity. Why may I not go tonight? Because, dear sir, my coachman and horses are away on a mission. I've been forgetting to do the Dracula voice today. I do apologise. Out of practice. First recording since after Christmas holidays. Then, lame excuse. Then the Count stood up and said with a sweet courtesy which made me rub my eyes, it seemed so real. So again, that courtesy, that suave nature, really emphasising from Stoker, isn't it, that how much of a villain he is as well. Ponderous bolts unhook the heavy chains, and so this is all connotations of imprisonment, doesn't it, as well. And when the doors are open, when Dracula says, oh yeah, it's fine, you can just go out this door here, he opens the door, and then who should be outside but it's the howling of the wolves. It's actually the women, isn't it, in their wolf forms. And I knew then to struggle at the moment against the Count was useless, so he can't, there's no escape. Crew's setting up again, created like this classic sense of being a Gothic heroine in many ways, Jonathan Harker. He addresses them, doesn't he, the brides, Back to your own place. Your time is not yet come. Wait, have patience. Tonight is mine. Tomorrow night is yours. There was a low, sweet ripple of laughter, and in a rage I threw open the door and saw without the three terrible women licking their lips. So it's very predatory, and it's got kind of sexual connotations as well, isn't it, really, as well? They all joined in a horrible laugh and ran away. So Stoker's doing everything he can here to maintain the sense of menace, the sense of threat, the sense of danger to Jonathan Harker, and encouraging kind of audience fear and concern about how he's going to get out of this, even though this is all his journal. So somehow he was writing this all the time and remembering all this detail, but we're not going to think too much about that. So he tries to escape, but decides to get the key, actually. Then when he goes to investigate Dracula in the chapel again as well, he knows Dracula's got the key. So when Dracula's recharging his vampiric batteries, he goes down to, don't use that phrase in real essays and things, just a joke, saw something which filled my very soul with horror. Dracula has kind of regenerated himself, he's renewed himself, half renewed. So he's looking younger because he's been feeding, and he's getting ready to travel, so he's a lot more healthy there. Great simile here, he lay like a filthy leech, blood-sucking. Are they mollusks, I think? Leeches, aren't they? They are mollusks, but yeah. Blood-sucking mollusks. There was a mocking smile on the bloated face which seemed to drive me mad, and this is foreshadowing. Look here as well, the very thought drove me mad. The idea is, he does actually get sent to the brink of madness, doesn't he, from his experiences. And Harker realises now, this was the being I was helping to transfer to London, where perhaps for centuries to come he might, amongst teeming millions, satiate his lust for blood and create a new and ever-widening circle of semi-demons to batten on the helpless. That means as in feed on them. So we said earlier on about, in the previous chapters, about Dracula's plan coming to England. It's really turning on its head what the British Empire has been doing. And the British Empire in the 19th century and even into the early 20th century thought of itself in terms of hundreds of years of rule. That's how it saw it. So I think there's definitely connection there to that. Then we have, this is a little supernatural bit I noticed where the door gets blown mysteriously closed. There's a puff of wind and the door gets locked. So I thought that was quite a little bit. I'm not going to spend too long on that bit. And then we have the idea of, at least God's mercy is better than that of these monsters, and the precipice is steep and high, and its foot a man may sleep as a man. Goodbye all, Mina. So this is the last thing he writes before he does his literal cliffhanger, where he's actually going to climb out of the castle and escape. And spoiler alert, he does survive, of course, but anyway. And that's the end of the introductory sequence of Dracula, the first few stages of it. And then chapter 5, we will go on. We will meet Mina and Lucy, and it'll all be good. So hopefully you've enjoyed that. Listen to the others, watch my other stuff, subscribe, need more subscribers, need more viewing hours. Get on it. Thank you for listening.